Once upon a time, in the heart of Umuagu village, a strange man roamed the dusty paths, muttering to himself. His name was Eze, but nobody knew much about him. Some villagers said he had once been a great hunter, while others believed he had been cursed. His hair was wild, his clothes torn, and his skin darkened by the sun. But the most disturbing thing about him was the old leather bag he carried everywhere. He never let it out of his sight. If anyone tried to come close, he would growl like a wild animal, his eyes flashing with warning. Adaku, have you ever seen what is inside that bag? Akushi whispered to her friend as they pounded yam near the village square. Neka shook her head. Nobody knows. But I heard Mama Ekena say that one night he saw him talking to the bag as if there was something alive inside it. The women shivered at the thought. Meanwhile, the village chief, Ishe Okonkwo, had other worries. Lately, people had been complaining about missing things, goats, chicken, even money. The villagers began to suspect one another, but no one had any proof. At first, it was just small things. A farmer named Obi woke up one morning to find his prized goats missing. Who will steal from me? He fumed, walking to the village square to complain. Then Mama Chinyere discovered her basket of yam had disappeared overnight. This is not ordinary, she lamented. A thief is among us. Day by day, more villagers reported their missing belongings. Clothes disappeared from the washing lines. Palm wine kegs vanished in the night. Even Ishe Okokwo's son lost his precious catapult. One evening, while discussing the matter, Oguna the village hunter leaned in and whispered, "Have you noticed? This Eze moves around a lot at night. What if he's the thief?" Nnamdi, a palm tapper, laughed. "You think a madman is stealing goods? He doesn't even have a proper place to sleep." One morning, the village awoke to scary news. A young man named Ekene had been found dead by the riverbank. His body was pale, his throat slit, and his eyes wide open in terror. But the most horrifying part, his heart was missing. A crowd gathered as the village elders arrived. "This is no ordinary death," Ishe Okonkwo said bravely. "Whoever did this is not just a murderer. This is evil work." Women wailed. Men shook their heads in anger. "We must find out who did this," Ogbonna declared. "The gods will not forgive us if we do nothing." As they discussed, Eze appeared at the scene, dragging his bag behind him. His presence sent chills down their spines. He stood for a moment talking to himself, then walked away. Adaku whispered, "Why does he always show up where bad things happen?" Fear spread like wildfire in Umuagu. People locked their doors earlier. No one walked alone at night. The missing items were one thing, but human life? That was unforgivable. At the village square, men sat in huge voices. "Could it be a ritualist?" Shujoke suggested. Mama Ugu nodded. "Who else would take body parts? This is beyond robbery." Some pointed fingers at strangers. Others at known troublemakers. But soon, more villagers began to look at Eze with suspicion. One night, Emeka, a young boy, decided to follow Eze. He tiptoed behind him, staying hidden in the shadows. But what he saw made his blood run cold. Eze stopped under a tree, opened his bag, and Emeka hid behind the bush, his heart pounding. The moonlight shining faintly on Eze's hunched figure as he carefully unwrapped his bag. Emeka strained his eyes to see. What he saw nearly made him scream. Inside the bag, wrapped in dirty clothes, was something red and slimy. It looked like flesh. Emeka covered his mouth with hands. He could smell something rotten, something that made his stomach turn. Suddenly, Eze froze. He sniffed the air like a dog sensing danger. Then, with terrifying speed, he spun round and let out a deep growl. "Who's there?" he shouted, his voice sharp like a knife. Emeka turned and ran. His feet barely touched the ground as he raced back home. He burst into his mother's hut, panting. Mama, Mama, I saw it. His mother, Mama Nkechi, held his shoulders. What did you see? Eze's bag. It has human flesh. Mama Nkechi grasped. Are you sure? Emeka nodded furiously. Mama, we need to tell the elders. By morning, the entire village buzzed with Emeka's story. People gathered at the chief's compound, whispering and pointing. Shifokoko sat with the elders. This is serious accusation, he said, stroking his grey beard. We cannot just attack a madman based on a boy's words. But my son saw it with his own eyes, Mama Nkechi insisted. The elders murmured. Finally, Ichie Maduka spoke. We must act carefully. If Eze is truly dangerous, we must catch him without warning. Ogbonna the hunter grinned. Then let's set a trap. That night, the villagers devised a plan. They would lure Eze into the village square, where the strongest men would seize him. They would open the bag. Nobody slept that night. The morning after the Emeka's terrifying discovery, the village was in confusion. People gathered in small groups, whispering about the strange things Eze might be hiding in his bag. We must find out the truth. Ogbonna the hunter said firmly, if he truly carries human flesh, we must stop him before something worse happens. But how do we take the bag from him? Nnamdi asked. That man guards it with his life. Shifokoko stroked his beard. We will wait until he is asleep, then we will take it. That night, a group of strong men followed Eze as he staggered through the village, talking to himself. When he lay under an old mango tree and dozed off, they crept forward. Ogbonna held his breath. Slowly, he reached out for the bag. His fingers brushed against the rough leather. Ah! Eze screamed through the night like thunder. He sat up, his eyes wild. Who dares touch my bag? In that instant, he grabbed a stick and swung it wisely, forcing the men to scatter. He held his bag tightly and ran into the darkness, disappearing into the night. The next day, elders sat under the great Iroko tree, discussing their next move. We must catch him by surprise, Maduka suggested. This time, we must be smarter. That evening, the men lay in wait. Israel strode through the village as usual, talking under his breath, and as he passed the square, they pounced. But Eze was fast, too fast. He twisted, ducked, rolled, escaping their grip. Before they could react, he darted into the thick bushes behind Mama Shinyeri's hut. After him, Nambi shouted. The men crashed through the bushes, but Eze was nowhere to be found. He had vanished, just like a ghost. We will try again tomorrow, Ugbona grumbled, wiping sweat from his forehead. Again, the village just had failed. Days passed and the village remained restless. People avoided walking alone. Every missing goat, every lost chicken, every yam was blamed on Eze. Then something strange happened. Eze disappeared. He had not been seen in 2 days. Mama Nkechi whispered to Neka. Maybe he knew we were watching him. Neka replied. Chifokoko was worried. If he truly run away, good. But if not, we must prepare for the worst. That night, as the village began to relax, a loud scream rang out. The villagers ran to the river bank and froze. A body lay in the shallow water, lifeless. It was Adana, the beautiful daughter of Ishe Madoka. Her heart was missing. The air in the village became heavy with fear. First Ekene, now Adana. The pattern was clear. Someone was killing people and taking their body parts. We must do something before we are all dead, Chijoke cried. I believe Eze is the killer, Ogbonna said. He ran away because he knew we were onto him. Or, Ishemaduka countered, his face dark with grief. He was taken by the true killers. The villagers whispered among themselves, what if they have been chasing the wrong person all along? Still, Chief Okonkwo refused to take chances. If Eze is still in this village, we must find him. He holds the answer. Determined to uncover the truth, the villagers set another trap. This time, They placed food near the abandoned shrine at the edge of the village, a place where Eze sometimes slept. They hid in the bushes, watching and waiting. Hours passed. The night was silent. The air was thick with tension. Then a shadow moved. The villagers held their breath as Eze crawled towards the foot, holding his bag tightly to his chest. Ogbonna signaled. Now! The men leaped forward, tackling him to the ground. Eze fought like a wild animal, biting, scratching, screaming. Hold him down, Nnamdi shouted. But just as Ogbonna reached for the bag, Eze let out an ear-piercing shout and bit Ogbonna's arm. Shocked, Ogbonna let go and Eze twisted free. Within seconds, he had escaped again, vanishing into the dark forest. The villagers had failed once more. That night, something else happened. Something that sent shivers down their spines. Mama Ugo, an old widow, swore she heard voices in the forest. They were whispering, she told the elders. The next morning, her heart trembling. Voices, deep, dark voices. Chijioke coughed. Maybe you were dreaming. Mama Ugo shook her head. No, no, they were real, and they were calling a name. The villagers kneeled closer. What name? Her lips trembled. Eze. A heavy silence fell over the village. Eze has always been a madman. But what if? What if he was something more? What if he wasn't alone? The village of Umuagu was no longer the same. Fear locked in every corner, and nobody walked alone at night. Women locked their doors early, and men carried matches wherever they went. But one question haunted them all. Where is Eze? 3 days had passed since the failed attempt to capture him. Just as the villagers began to believe that he has fled forever, a stranger arrived. He was a tall, lean man with piercing eyes and dark skin that glistened with sweat. He wore a red hunting cap and a long tattered wrapper. He carried a wooden staff, and around his neck hung a string of cowrie shells. My name is Dibia Okafor, he announced at the village square. I have come because I heard of your troubles. You are hunting a madman, but I tell you, he is not what you think he is. The village murmured. Chief Okonkwo stepped forward. What do you mean? Dibia Okafor took a deep breath. The spirits have spoken to me. They say that Eze is only a pawn in something much darker. If you wish to catch him, you must first find who controls him. The villagers gasped. Could it be true? That night, Dibia Okafor performed a ritual by the great Iroko tree. A fire burned before him as he muttered incantations, throwing strange powders into the flames. The fire roared higher, turning blue. A strong wind swept through the village, and suddenly, the flames twisted into a shape of a face the villagers knew too well. Iche Okoye. The crowd erupted in shock. It cannot be, someone shouted. Ishe Okoye, the respected elder, was trembling. This is nonsense, he barked. A trick. This Dibia is deceiving you. But the fire did not lie. Dibia Okafor turned to Chief Okonkwo. He is the one. He and his people have been using Eze to cover their evil deeds. The missing hearts, the stolen body parts, they are for their rich path. The village erupted in anger. Men ran forward, grabbing Ishe Okoye. Talk, old man, Ogbonna shouted, shaking him violently. Ishe Okoye's lips quivered. Then suddenly, he threw back his head and laughed. A deep, bone-chilling laugh. You think you have won? He sneered. You are all fools. You have only begun to see the real horror. The village of Umuagu was silent, but filled the hearts of the people. The truth was out. Ishe Okoye was behind the killings. The elders and warriors dragged him to the village square where everybody gathered. Talk, Ogbonna barked, shaking him roughly. What did you do? Why did you do it? What evil possessed you? Ishe Okoye chuckled, his eyes dark and empty. Evil, he muttered. You fools, you call me evil. Yet you forget what the village did to my family. Shifokonko narrowed his eyes. What are you talking about? Ishokonko lifted his head slowly. His voice trembled, but it wasn't from fear, it was from rage. Many years ago, he began, my father was one of the richest men in Umuagu. He was a kind man, but the people of this village, you all turned against him. The crowd murmured in confusion. You called him a thief, Okoye spat, his voice rising. You accused him of stealing from the village treasury when he was innocent. You forced him to stand in this very square and watch as his house was burned to the ground. You cursed him. And my mother, my poor mother, she could not take the shame. She drank poison and died a sin night. Gasps filled the air. People looked at each other, whispering. Some of the older villagers lowered their heads in guilt. Okeye's eyes burned with fury. I was just a boy hiding in the forest, watching my family be destroyed. I swore that day that I would make you all suffer. Tears filled the eyes of some villagers, but Okoye sneered. You'd think I'll stop at revenge. No, I wanted more. I wanted to be the most powerful man in this village. I wanted you all to fear me. Ogbonna tightened his grip on his machete. So you killed innocent people just for revenge? Okoye smiled, a chilling, wicked smile. Revenge was not enough. I needed power. The spirits demanded sacrifices, and I gave them what they wanted. Each heart, each body part made me stronger. Mama Nkechi trembled, asked in a weak voice, and Eze, what was his role in all this? Okoye laughed again. Poor Eze. He was just a madman before I found him. I made him my puppet. I fed him portions that clouded his mind, and I made him carry the bag of body parts for me. Nobody ever suspected a madman. He was my shield, my cover. The villagers exploded in anger. Shouts filled the air. You devil, someone screamed. You are a monster, another shouted. Okoye's expression didn't change. He looked at the flames of the torches surrounding him, a strange glint in his eyes. Then suddenly, he leaned forward and whispered, but you are all too late. A heavy silence fell upon the village, for terror gripped their hearts. What had Okoye done? The village square was filled with angry voices. The people of Umago had heard enough. Okoye had to pay for his crimes. Ugbona raised his machete. This man has killed our brothers and sisters. He has brought darkness into our land. He must be punished. Yes, the villagers roared. Punish him. Okoye knelt in death, his eyes tied behind his back. But even in defeat, he smiled. Fools, he muttered. You think killing me will erase what has happened? Chief Okonkwo ignored him and turned to the elders. What punishment does a man like this deserve? Ishe Wonsu, the oldest elder, stepped forward. His face was grave. For the blood he has spilled, for the fear he has brought to Umagu, he must face the same fate as those he had murdered. The villagers nodded in agreement. Justice had to be served. Eze the madman sat nearby, his hands tied as well. His eyes darted round and round wildly. He was no longer laughing. His terror was now real. He had been used by Okoye, and now he would face the punishment too. Mama Nkechi shook her head sadly. We should have been more careful, she whispered. We ignored the signs. We let a madman roam freely, and now we have to suffer for it. Two warriors dragged Okoye and Eze to the village outskirts, where an old tree stood, the same tree where criminals of the past had met their end. You will pay for your crimes here, Ogbonna declared, and let your death be a warning to those who think they can bring evil to this land. Okoye let out a dry laugh. Kill me if you want, but remember my words. Not all madmen are just madmen. Some of them are watching, some of them are waiting. With that, the warriors did what needed to be done. The days that followed were quiet. The villagers mourned their dead and performed cleansing rituals to get rid of Okoye's evil. Every household was extra cautious. People no longer ignored strange behavior. Mama Nkechi sat with a group of women shaking their head. From now on, we must always watch those who walk among us, she said. No more blind trust. Ugona and his other warriors doubled their patrols. Any stranger who entered Umago was questioned. If someone acted strangely, the village elders were informed immediately. The people of Umago had learned their lesson. They will never again ignore the whispers in the night. They will never again assume that a madman was just a madman, because in the end, evil can wear any face, and in Umagu, they would never forget.